One of the other things that was found was a little enamel badge. You can't really see very well that it's a little enamel badge, but we have managed to have a little clean of it. If you wet it you can see it better. It says Star Cycle Club, Northampton. And cycle clubs were very, very popular. About 100 years ago, people used to go out for the day, and there was a cyclist touring club, some cyclist associations, and people would meet up, they would travel all over the country, and there would be rallies and races and all sorts of things. I mean, they still happen today, but not to the extent that they did. I have another cycle club badge, the Phoenix Cycling Club of Aintree. All the clubs had them, and people would wear them, and they'd be very proud of whichever club it was that they belonged to, and they would vie with each other, and so they had their own little badges. And that was the Star Cycle Club from Northampton, and that's a Liverpool one from Aintree. I feel a bit like those cookery programmes when you say it's one I made earlier. Well, it's one I found. And we also found another little enamel badge, and that's quite an interesting one too, that somebody visiting the park sometime must have dropped, and again, or lost, and it'd be interesting to know more about it if anybody can tell us. Guests College, Blackburn, what we need to find out what Guests College Blackburn was, and say we've got one of their lapel badges, wonder what it is that brought it here to Courthay Park, because badges like that really haven't been made for quite some time, not those sort of badges. They've been between the walls. We were talking about the post office button, the GPO button, Dave, and I said it's a Victorian button, must be at least 100 years old, and we have this little story about how it came to be there. I knew it was Victorian because it, above the lettering GPO, it has a crown, and it's a Queen's crown, Queen Victoria's crown. And people who collect badges and buttons are able, it assists in dating them. If you know that with a certain shaped crown, it must be Queen Victoria. There's the King's crown, which is from 1902 to 1952, which is the four kings, Edward VII, George V and King George VI. And then there's the crown which is on military badges and buttons now, which is the St Edward's crown or Queen Elizabeth's crown. And they're different shapes, and that's how you can tell. So let's just look at the different shapes first. The Victorian crowns, as you'd expect, rather ornate. Longer downwards with big wings, that's a Victorian crown. The most common one that most people will see is the King's crown, and that's for the four kings. This particular one is a wartime one, King George VI. And there's the GPO button, and there is that Victorian crown, quite different shape from that one. The Elizabethan crown is sort of halfway between the two. It's smaller and fatter, and I've just sketched that because I haven't got a separate crown. You could get a cloth one, a military one, because that's what they're using today. When the Queen was crowned, she was only 21, and it was felt that the crown which her father had worn, and her grandfather and great-grandfather, would have been too heavy for her. And they produced this other crown, the St Edward's crown, which is the one which appears on our coins and military badges, stamps and so on, the Queen's crown. It's known as the St Edward's crown or the Elizabethan crown, and I just sketched it. So there you are. If you're looking at your buttons, Victorian, the four kings. Another interesting little piece we found is a tiny ceramic cube, about, I don't know, about half an inch square. And that is one piece from a game which some people may know of or may remember, depending on your age, called Ollie and Jacks, where for 1 penny you could buy a set, an Ollie and 4 Jacks, and the game has been played for, oh, I don't know, hundreds of years. Examples of it have been found in caves, in ancient Rome, in ancient Greece, and hopefully it's still played today. I have recently seen a set which I could buy, rather different from what we're going to see in a moment, but it's still a game some people will play, and people will remember you threw the ollie in the air, and before it hit the ground you were supposed to scoop up one of the jacks, and if you were lucky and very adept, you could pick up all four without dropping any. If you dropped them, you were out. And they came in different sets. I say it cost a penny for the set about 80 years ago. I don't know how much they cost. Two other things we found on the site were two medicine bottles. They're just plain brown medicine bottles. Goodness knows what sort of medicines would have been in them. If they'd been poison, they would have been blue or green. The blue ones were for poisons not to be taken. The green ones I think were probably for external use only. The blue ones were ridged so that if you were blind or it was in the dark, you would not pick them up by mistake and take a swig of laudanum or something, when in fact that wasn't what you intended to do. That was something else interesting. Another interesting old bottle I've got is one of Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup. And the soothing syrup was intended to be given to crying babies, babies that were teething, and it was laudanum based, so you were actually giving quite a powerful drug to send your children to sleep. I've heard more recently of some people who used to dip the dummy in Seeger's egg flip. I don't recommend that either. Neither of these things were very good ideas, but Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup must have certainly quietened down many a fractious baby. Right. We also found a Hanson's milk bottle. Nothing very special, I suppose, about a milk bottle, except that Hanson's dairies were very much a local dairy. Their depot was in Edge Lane. The other big suppliers of milk locally probably would have been, let's see, the Co-op, Reese's. People will remember them. Hanson's also supplied, and I brought with me, Hanson's school service, a third pint of milk, which lucky children were given at break time in the morning. My memory of it was always ice cold and enough to put you off milk for life, but it was a thought that we should all have milk. Milk would be good for growing children. You'll notice that the school milk has got a much wider opening than you would think was necessary, and the reason for that is that in order to seal the milk in, they used to have a cardboard top inserted. The cardboard top had a place in the centre that you could press out with your finger and insert a straw in order to drink your milk. And I've got here some tops which haven't had the hole pressed out, and some which have, so that you can see what they used to look like. Because I think we're digging down in what was probably a kitchen or storage area when they started the excavation, we found a great many shards of pottery. I guess most of it is from storage jars like this perhaps, some of it from kitchen utensils like this piece here, and there were some tiles or pieces of tile, and one or two fragments only of what was obviously much more more expensive pottery. I mean, it may be dinner services or something like that. One very attractive small tile, a couple of little containers, jars, which are usually called inks, although I think they may have contained all sorts of different things, but they're known in the trade as inks. And if you are interested in the value, they would cost you 10p if you went and bought one. Not very valuable pieces of pottery, but interesting because they came from the house, and certainly one of the pieces of pottery, I feel, it probably was really from quite a nice vase or something of that nature. Another of blueware of probably ordinary kitchenware, but would have been quite decorative when it was new and unbroken. And finally we did find some of the original plaster from the hall, only small pieces, but there is a small piece here, so